Admiral Indrix Jane.
A voice crackled to life on the intercom, bringing with it a disappointing confirmation of my suspicions. No hits registered. The human ship warped away in the nick of time, sir. Yet another complete failure at managing to thwart human activity in any capacity. Order the Vanguard force to flee from the Meldrin system. They sent out an automated distress signal moments ago and are no longer responding to communications. It was truly maddening, watching the humans repeatedly escape my grasp by the thinnest margins, and always due to the most idiotic of reasons. The first few incidents were admittedly my fault, whether it be failure to recognize them as a real threat, or choosing to savor my revenge over just cleanly ridding the galaxy of that human freak Dominique. But the following encounters were out of my control, mockeries of my inability to make the correct decision back when it mattered. Being forced to hold fire in the interest of valuable commodities that had already been raised, and now being assigned to defend a system that was already in the midst of being attacked, with protocol dictating that I wait a certain amount of time before concluding that a system's failure to respond isn't just a malfunction. It made me want to lash out in anger, scream at the top of my lungs, and find out what would win in a competition between the horns on my head and the thick steel walls of my office. I didn't, of course, as there was no merit to acting in such an unbecoming manner. I stuck with the less destructive route of clenching my jaw until my molars began to fracture. While I barely felt the pain that used to be debilitating for me, this act still had the effect of releasing stress and clearing my mind. Two options were laid out before me, either to accept this failure as is and continue my assigned patrol, taking another hit to my already blemished reputation, or to warp straight into the Meldrin system and attempt to wipe out humanity once and for all. Under normal circumstances, I would never even consider the latter option. The humans had just proven themselves to be lethally capable in combat, having locked down an entire planet with just a single ship. Even after a successful subduing of humanity, losses would likely be unavoidable, and the risk of our other enemies in the galactic cluster taking advantage of my fleet's weakened state and breaking through our front lines was too great. I, however, was not currently subjected to normal circumstances. The Noble had given me the tools to control the most powerful weapon we had in our arsenal, a sentient AI forged for the express purpose of war. And while the humans did have a sentient AI of their own, the Noble had assured me that theirs was young and sloppy, and that ours would find the time to take pleasure in erasing theirs should they ever clash. After that, the sentient could theoretically bring down the entire Meldrin system on its own, and I wouldn't even need to fire a single shot. Choosing to back off now instead of expressing the leverage I held over them would have been a brainless squandering of this opportunity. With my mind made up, I sent out an order to every ship on my fleet to prepare for synchronized warp. Captains sounded off as their ships passed final checks, with smaller ships being ready faster, while larger ships needed more time to fully spool up their drives. Everything was going smoothly until the second largest ship in my fleet, right behind the flagship I was stationed in, failed to sound off at their scheduled ready time. A few moments of uneasy silence later, and I was met with a call from the captain of said ship. Reason for delay, Captain? Admiral, it seems that we were boarded during the enemy's escape. I was hit with a mental flashbang that completely eradicated my train of thought, knocking down my rising conviction along with it. The enemy managed to launch a boarding attack during their retreat? The window between our arrival and their departure was just a handful of seconds, meaning that they somehow already had a boarding party prepared to launch. Wait, why would they send out a boarding party right before they leave, and right at our second largest ship? The humans never struck me as the meaninglessly suicidal type. Not to mention, it had been nearly a minute since the humans retreated, so why was I only being informed of this now? And what's your reason for withholding this information until now? We're experiencing extreme signal blockage near the point of entry, Admiral. We weren't aware we'd been attacked until recently. Even now, we're only able to confirm the presence of a single human intruder. The captain paused to clear his throat before speaking again. The intruder matches with the profile of the human ambassador Dominique Reynolds. I barely managed to restrain myself from bursting out with laughter. How could I not find humor in this moment? The scourge of my life, the one that tore down everything I'd ever built up and got away with it scot-free, the sick freak that pulverized an army with his bare hands and left a landscape of corpses in his wake. There he was, seemingly thrown out and abandoned by his people right into the heart of my fleet. Only an insane person would fail to see the joke there. I promised myself that I'd kill him this time, no matter what it took. Admiral, a team is currently moving in to intercept. We should be prepared to jump shortly after repairs. It seemed that the captain wasn't fully aware of just how dangerous that man was. I didn't necessarily blame him for not knowing, as the incident regarding the failure to capture him was kept somewhat under wraps. Small arms fire simply wouldn't be sufficient in getting this job done. Cease all attempts at intervention at once, and avoid any further confrontation with that man. As a matter of fact, evacuate all personnel from the section of the ship he is currently in. Admiral, that's an order, Captain. Do not ask questions. At once! Upon receiving a satisfactory response, I closed the line and began the next step of making Dominique pay for what he's done. I grabbed one of the few remaining sleek metal canisters from my desk and weighed it in my hand. It was beyond me. What secrets such an unassuming object contained that had the power to wrangle the greatest weapon in the galaxy? But only fools went venturing for answers that would get them killed.